When people think of South Korea, they usually imagine a country filled with cutting-edge technology, futuristic cities, and one of the most powerful economies on the planet. But did you know that this same country is home to massive volcanic lava tunnels hidden beneath an island shaped by fire? Or that women divers still challenge the ocean using techniques passed down through generations? South Korea is truly remarkable. Separated by one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world, it has technically remained at war for more than 70 years. Yet towering skyscrapers dominate the skyline, centuries-old temples endure among the mountains, and ancient traditions remain an integral part of a society that never stops reinventing itself. Get ready to discover a South Korea very different from the one that usually appears on your screen. A country where tradition and innovation walk side by side, revealing stunning landscapes, fascinating stories, and surprising facts that may completely change the way you see this nation. For much of history, the Korean peninsula was surrounded by powerful empires. Between Chinese influence, Japanese invasions, and internal conflicts, this region on the eastern edge of Asia had to learn how to survive under constant pressure. And perhaps that is exactly what explains how a nation marked by wars and division managed to transform itself into one of the most technologically advanced, organized, and influential societies on the planet. Viewed from space, the region presents a striking contrast. To the north, vast darkness dominates the night. To the south, a sea of lights reveals densely illuminated cities, connected by modern highways, high-speed rail networks, and neighborhoods that seem to operate without pause. Separated by the famous DMZ, the Korean Demilitarized Zone, the two Koreas carry deep scars from a conflict that completely changed the destiny of the peninsula. And as unbelievable as it may seem, that war has never officially ended. The conflict that began in the 1950s entered only a kind of armed pause after an armistice was signed in 1953. Since then, both sides have technically remained at war to this day. Located between China, Japan, and the Yellow Sea, South Korea is surrounded by mountains, rivers, and a coastline dotted with islands. Much of its terrain is mountainous, something that has helped shape both the architecture of its cities and its cultural habits over the centuries. Even in major metropolitan areas, it is not uncommon to find ancient temples hidden among glass skyscrapers and avenues covered with giant LED screens. The four seasons are well defined and completely transform the landscape. Spring covers streets and parks with blooming cherry blossoms. Summer brings intense heat and heavy rainfall. In autumn, entire mountainsides turn shades of red and gold. Winter, meanwhile, can be extremely cold, especially in higher elevations, with sub-zero temperatures and heavy snowfall. And perhaps it is during winter that one ancient tradition remains most present. In many homes, warmth still comes from the floor through Ondol, a heating system created centuries ago. Instead of heating the air, the entire floor becomes warm, turning the home into a cozy refuge during the cold months. Even in modern apartments surrounded by cutting-edge technology, this ancestral system remains alive, now adapted into hydronic heating systems with hot water circulating beneath the floor. The history of the region began long before its gigantic urban centers existed. Ancient kingdoms competed for power for centuries until the peninsula was unified under dynasties that consolidated a distinct identity, language, and culture. One of the greatest symbols of that identity was the creation of Hangul, the Korean alphabet. Developed in the 15th century during the reign of King Sejong, it was designed to be simple and accessible to ordinary people. While much of the world still relied on extremely complex writing systems, the new alphabet allowed common citizens to learn to read far more easily. Today, many linguists consider Hangul one of the most efficient writing systems ever created. But the peninsula's journey was far from peaceful. In the early 20th century, the territory was annexed by the Japanese Empire. For decades, the population lived under occupation, cultural repression, and economic exploitation. The Korean language was prohibited during certain periods. Japanese names were imposed on the population, and thousands of people suffered through forced labor. When World War II ended, many believed freedom had finally arrived. But the peninsula ended up divided between Soviet influence in the north and American influence in the south. What initially seemed like a temporary separation ultimately created two completely different countries. A few years later, the Korean War plunged the region into total destruction. Cities were bombed, families were separated, and millions of people died in a brutal conflict that redefined the future of the peninsula. To this day, technically, there has never been a definitive peace treaty. And perhaps the most remarkable part is what happened afterward. In the following decades, the southern half rose from a reality marked by extreme poverty to become a global powerhouse in technology, industry, and innovation. The growth was so rapid that it became known as the Miracle on the Han River. Within just a few generations, streets devastated by war gave way to ultra-modern urban centers, giant corporations, and infrastructure considered among the most advanced on Earth. Today, technology seems integrated into virtually every aspect of daily life. Internet speeds rank among the fastest in the world. Connectivity extends through underground subway systems, elevators, cafes, parks, and even mountainous regions. Orders placed through apps arrive within minutes. Digital payments replace physical cash, and electronic displays dominate commercial streets illuminated day and night. Even bathrooms reveal this level of modernization. In many apartments, hotels, and public spaces, toilets feature heated seats, automatic sensors, built-in washing systems, temperature controls, and digital functions that seem straight out of a futuristic laboratory. For much of the population, this level of comfort has simply become normal. Yet all of this modernity exists side by side with extremely strong traditional values. Respect for hierarchy remains deeply embedded in social relationships. Age influences the way people speak, greet one another, and even serve drinks during meals. In social settings, it is common for younger people to show respect by using both hands when handing over objects or serving someone older. Education occupies an almost central role in society. For many students, the day begins early and ends late at night. Schools, supplementary academies, and long hours of study are part of life for millions of young people growing up under intense academic competition. The National University Entrance Exam is treated with such importance that the entire country practically slows down during its administration. At the same time, there is enormous appreciation for appearance and personal aesthetics. Entire districts are occupied by dermatology clinics, beauty salons, and specialized skincare centers. Skincare products are part of the daily routine for both men and women, and the men's cosmetics market is one of the largest in the world. Seeing men wearing light makeup or using facial care products in everyday life is completely normal. Cosmetic procedures have also become extremely popular over the past few decades. In some families, cosmetic surgery may even be given as a graduation gift, especially when young people enter university or begin searching for jobs. Another curious detail can be seen in the streets, cafes, and parks of major cities. Many couples wear matching outfits, identical sneakers, or visually coordinated accessories. The so-called couple look has become a fun and culturally accepted way of expressing a relationship in public. The sense of safety often impresses foreign visitors. People frequently leave bags, cell phones, or laptops on cafe tables while ordering at the counter without much concern. Cameras spread throughout cities help with urban monitoring, but safety is also linked to a strong collective culture, low rates of violent crime, and a high sense of social organization. This organization even extends to household waste. Proper waste separation is part of daily life, enforced with a level of rigor that surprises many tourists. Food waste, recyclables, and general trash must be disposed of in specific ways, often using official bags sold by local governments. Improper disposal can result in fines, inspections, and even public exposure of incorrectly discarded waste. Despite all this modernity, spiritual traditions remain visible. Quiet Buddhist temples survive among busy neighborhoods. Colorful lanterns illuminate religious festivals, and ancient wooden structures endure surrounded by futuristic avenues. This coexistence of past and future may be one of the country's most fascinating characteristics. Few places in the world offer such an intense contrast. On one side, mist-covered mountains, ancestral palaces, and traditional ceremonies preserved for centuries. On the other, neon-lit technology districts, silent trains crossing cities at extraordinary speeds, and a society that seems to live permanently several steps ahead of the rest of the world. And perhaps it is exactly this unlikely blend that makes this place so difficult to forget. But to truly understand the soul of this nation, you need to explore its cities. And none represents the meeting of tradition and the future better than Seoul. With more than 2,000 years of history, Seoul grew along the banks of the Han River to become one of Asia's largest metropolises. Yet what impresses most is not its size, but the way life seems to unfold without interruption. Busy streets, markets operating late into the night, and countless cafes open at all hours help create a vibrant atmosphere that attracts millions of visitors every year. In some neighborhoods, narrow streets lined with traditional homes preserve the atmosphere of centuries past. In others, futuristic facades, automated stores, and technology hubs create the feeling of walking through a city that lives permanently several years ahead of the present. As night falls, the landscape becomes even more alive. Neon reflections spread across the banks of the Han River, street markets remain bustling, and commercial avenues continue pulsing long after other cities have gone to sleep. But simply head south, and you will find a completely different reality. Nestled between mountains and the sea lies Busan, a city where the ocean breeze seems to slow the frantic pace of the capital's great avenues. As the country's main port, it plays a vital role in the economy, welcoming vessels from every corner of the world. Its connection to the sea is present in almost everything. Markets display an astonishing variety of fresh seafood, fishing boats share the waters with modern cargo ships, and urban beaches attract thousands of visitors during the warmer months. One of the most remarkable sights is Haenyeo Temple, built upon rocky cliffs by the sea. While many Asian temples were constructed in isolated mountain settings, this one seems to challenge the waves of the ocean itself, creating one of the most photogenic landscapes on the entire peninsula. And if Busan reveals the country's connection to the sea, there is another place where the past seems to have stood still. Gyeongju served for centuries as the capital of the Kingdom of Silla, one of the kingdoms that helped shape Korean identity. Walking through its streets feels like wandering through a vast open-air museum. Seemingly ordinary hills conceal ancient royal tombs. Stone pagodas have stood for more than 1,000 years. Historic temples emerge among silent forests, while lakes and gardens preserve scenes that resemble traditional East Asian paintings. Few cities convey such a clear sense of historical continuity. While other regions transformed under the pressure of modern urbanization, Gyeongju preserved part of the memory of a civilization that profoundly influenced the culture, architecture, and traditions that remain alive today. But the journey still holds one final surprise. Far from the mainland, surrounded by the waters of the East China Sea, lies Jeju, a destination many consider the natural jewel of the country. The island was born from volcanic activity, and its origins can be seen everywhere. Fields of hardened lava, underground caves, dramatic cliffs, and ocean-sculpted rock formations create landscapes completely different from those found in the nation's major cities. At the center of the island rises Hallasan Mountain, the highest point in the country. For much of the year, hiking trails lead visitors through forests, volcanic craters, and scenery that seems to change with every season. But Jeju is known for more than just its natural beauty. The island also preserves unique customs and a distinct cultural identity. Among its most famous figures are the Haenyeo, women divers who, for generations, have challenged the cold waters to harvest seafood using traditional techniques passed down from mother to daughter. It is a fascinating contrast. From the urban intensity of Seoul to the coastal landscapes of Busan. From the historic treasures of Gyeongju to the volcanic formations of Jeju. Each destination reveals a different face of the country, showing that its identity extends far beyond the technology, skyscrapers, and modernity for which it is known. And perhaps it is precisely this diversity that makes every journey through these lands so surprising. But there is one unavoidable question. How was all of this possible? Just a few decades ago, much of the country was still recovering from the devastating consequences of the Korean War. Roads, cities, and industries had to be rebuilt almost from scratch. Yet what seemed like an enormous obstacle would eventually become one of the most remarkable economic recoveries in modern history. Throughout the second half of the 20th century, investments in infrastructure, education, and industrialization accelerated the country's growth at a pace that captured the attention of the entire world. The phenomenon became known as the Miracle on the Han River, a reference to the river that flows through the capital and symbolizes this extraordinary transformation. Much of this growth was driven by the so-called Chaebols, massive family-owned conglomerates that expanded into numerous sectors of the economy. Companies such as Samsung, Hyundai, and LG evolved from national brands into household names recognized across virtually every continent. Today, their products can be found in millions of homes, offices, and vehicles around the world. The modern economy is one of the largest in Asia and stands out particularly in technology, electronics, shipbuilding, automotive manufacturing, and semiconductors. Components produced here power everything from smartphones and computers to data centers and artificial intelligence systems used across the globe. And speaking of artificial intelligence, the country continues to invest heavily in innovation, automation, and technological research. Companies such as Naver and Hyundai have expanded investments in areas ranging from advanced AI chips to industrial robotics and autonomous vehicles. At the same time, universities and research centers are developing new technologies to maintain competitiveness in an increasingly challenging global market. Politically, the country operates under a presidential system. The head of state and government is President Lee Jae-myung, elected in 2025 to a 5-year term. The nation also has a prime minister, currently Kim Min-seok, who assists the president in governing and overseeing various areas of public administration. Despite its high level of development, living in major urban centers can be expensive. Housing, especially in the Seoul metropolitan area, represents one of the greatest challenges for many families. In central districts of the capital, it is not uncommon for apartment rents to exceed the equivalent of $1,000 or even $2,000 per month. On the other hand, residents benefit from modern infrastructure, highly efficient public transportation, widely accessible digital services, and one of the most organized urban environments in Asia. But perhaps the most impressive aspect is not found in economic figures or innovation rankings. Rather, it is the fact that within just a few generations, a nation once marked by the devastation of war managed to reinvent itself and secure a place among the most advanced economies on the planet. But not all achievements can be measured in numbers. Beyond its modern cities and remarkable economic journey, the country is home to a collection of landscapes, monuments, and architectural masterpieces that help tell its story in different ways. Few places represent that past better than Gyeongbokgung Palace. Built in the late 14th century during the Joseon dynasty, it served for centuries as the primary center of royal power. Its vast courtyards, monumental gates, and ornate halls reveal the grandeur of an era when kings and scholars shaped the destiny of the peninsula. Today, visitors can witness the traditional changing of the guard ceremony, which helps preserve part of this historical heritage. But simply look up, and it becomes clear how much times have changed. Dominating the Seoul skyline, Lotte World Tower has become one of the greatest symbols of modern Korea. Standing more than 550 meters tall, the skyscraper ranks among the tallest buildings on the planet. From the observation deck near the top, visitors can see miles of urban landscapes, mountains, and the Han River, offering a remarkable perspective on the scale of the country's transformation over recent decades. While the tower represents the present, another site preserves an important part of Korea's spiritual heritage. Located in Gyeongju, Bulguksa Temple is considered one of the greatest masterpieces of Buddhist architecture in Asia. Originally built in the 8th century, the complex features wooden pavilions, stone bridges, and gardens carefully integrated into the natural landscape. Recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it remains one of the most important religious locations in the country. Just a short distance from the bustle of the major cities, another structure impresses through its sheer scale. The Incheon Bridge stretches for more than 20 kilometers across the water, connecting Incheon International Airport to the mainland. When illuminated at night, its silhouette appears to float above the sea, making it one of the most striking examples of modern South Korean engineering. But some of the most surprising wonders are not found above the surface. Beneath Jeju Island lies the Manjanggul lava tube, one of the largest lava tunnels ever discovered in the world. Formed by ancient volcanic eruptions, it contains enormous underground chambers, columns of solidified lava, and geological formations shaped over thousands of years. Walking through its dark corridors feels like exploring the remnants of a world forged by fire. Back above ground, contemporary architecture once again captures attention in Busan. The Busan Cinema Center has become one of the city's most recognizable buildings thanks to its gigantic suspended roof, illuminated by thousands of LED lights. Built to host the Busan International Film Festival, the complex combines art, culture, and futuristic design in a structure that seems straight out of a science fiction movie. Yet perhaps one of Jeju's most iconic landscapes faces the ocean. Rising directly from the sea, Seongsan Ilchulbong was formed by a volcanic eruption thousands of years ago. Its massive crater surrounded by green cliffs has created one of the most photographed scenes in the country. The site is especially famous at sunrise, when the first rays of sunlight illuminate the volcanic formation and the surrounding ocean. Not all attractions, however, impress solely because of their beauty. Among the most visited sites in the capital is the War Memorial of Korea, a vast complex dedicated to preserving the military history of the peninsula. Far more than a display of tanks, aircraft, and historical equipment, the museum helps visitors understand the events that shaped modern Korea and the transformations that defined the nation throughout the 20th century. On Jeju, a very different structure attracts attention through its simplicity. Bangju Church was designed to blend harmoniously with the surrounding landscape. Surrounded by vegetation and reflected in tranquil pools of water, its minimalist architecture creates an atmosphere of silence and contemplation that attracts visitors far beyond the religious community. Modernity also makes an impression from the very moment visitors arrive in the country. Incheon International Airport is frequently ranked among the best airports in the world. Beyond its operational efficiency, the complex stands out for its architecture, cultural spaces, and the experience it offers to the millions of passengers who pass through its terminals each year. Along the coast of Busan, another unusual landmark often surprises visitors. Jukseong Dream Cathedral appears to be an old European church standing beside the sea. But there is an unexpected detail. It was originally built as a set for film and television productions. Over time, it became a tourist attraction in its own right, thanks to the beauty of its location and the striking contrast with the surrounding coastal scenery. And to conclude this journey, few landscapes capture the country's natural beauty as perfectly as Seoraksan National Park. Mountains covered in forests, rock formations sculpted by time, waterfalls, and panoramic hiking trails make the region one of the most admired destinations in South Korea. During autumn, when the leaves turn shades of red, gold, and orange, the park transforms into a spectacular display of color that attracts visitors from around the world. From royal palaces to modern skyscrapers, from underground volcanic tunnels to mountains wrapped in mist. Each of these places reveals a different facet of the country, showing that its richness lies not only in its history or economic development, but also in the diversity of landscapes and experiences it offers to those who choose to explore it. And when it comes to food, few experiences feel as intense as walking through the bustling streets of Seoul at night. Illuminated food stalls line markets and avenues, while cooks work non-stop over hot griddles, steaming pots, and grills covered with meat, seafood, and spicy rice cakes. The aroma of food spreads in every direction, blending smoke, seasonings, and the constant movement of crowds passing through neighborhoods famous for their nightlife. Grilled skewers, freshly prepared noodles, stuffed dumplings, incredibly crispy fried chicken, and dishes that can be difficult even to identify appear on practically every corner. For those who enjoy trying new flavors, the variety seems almost endless. And perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects is watching the food being prepared right in front of customers, in a fast-paced rhythm that feels almost choreographed. But among so many options, few foods represent the country's cultural identity as strongly as kimchi. Present at virtually every meal, this traditional side dish made from fermented vegetables, most commonly napa cabbage and chili peppers, comes in hundreds of different varieties. Its bold, slightly tangy flavor can surprise first-time visitors, but for many Koreans, it is an inseparable part of daily life. Some families even maintain their own recipes passed down through generations. Another extremely popular symbol of Korean cuisine is Korean barbecue. In many restaurants, the meat is cooked directly at the table by the customers themselves on built-in grills or hot plates. Cuts such as samgyeopsal and galbi are often served alongside numerous small side dishes known as banchan, which include vegetables, sauces, pickled foods, and various accompaniments shared by everyone at the table. The experience goes far beyond the food itself. Conversations, smoke rising from the grill, the metallic sound of chopsticks, and the communal preparation of the meal transform dining into a highly social occasion. And speaking of chopsticks, there is another interesting detail. Unlike in many Asian countries where chopsticks are traditionally made of wood, Koreans commonly use metal chopsticks, usually accompanied by stainless steel spoons used for rice, soups, and stews. Among the country's most famous dishes is bibimbap, a colorful combination of rice, vegetables, meat, egg, and spicy pepper paste mixed together just before eating. Beyond its flavor, the dish is known for its exceptionally careful presentation. Meanwhile, Tteokbokki dominates many street food stalls. Made from chewy rice cakes cooked in a spicy sauce, it has become one of the country's most popular urban snacks, especially during colder evenings. Another culinary phenomenon is Korean fried chicken. Known for its incredibly crispy texture and bold sauces, it has gained international popularity in recent years and has become a staple at gatherings, late-night deliveries, and restaurants throughout the country. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Korean cuisine is the way tradition and everyday life remain deeply connected. Many recipes preserve ancient techniques of fermentation, communal preparation, and food sharing, maintaining cultural habits that have endured through generations, even within an extremely modern society. And perhaps that is exactly what makes the culinary experience so memorable. Between illuminated markets, tables covered with small dishes, and meals prepared right before your eyes, every dining experience becomes a small immersion into Korean culture itself. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for joining us. Leave a like, it really helps the channel. And if you see the hype button below, click it too. It helps more people discover this content. And of course, leave a comment below. Your opinion is very important to us. See you next time.